Question I'm often asked is, can you jig from a kayak? And the answer is very definitely yes, you can. Yes, we are sitting in a tight, compact cockpit, so there is more focus on technique when working from a kayak. So for us, what we need to do is concentrate on sitting up, sitting forward, shoulders back, and focus on the mechanical jigging process rather than trying to go too fast. Okay, so it's all about the correct technique of the mechanics of jigging. The basic technique that we're focusing on is to lift up and then wind down. Lift up, wind down. And it's what's typically called the mechanical jig technique. Lift up, wind down. So what we're doing is we're making that jig flutter as it's going up through the water. And that's the important thing. Speed, that'll come later, but technique is absolutely critical. One of the secrets to successful jigging is finding the fish. And typically on a kayak, what we're doing is looking for those high current areas. So anything really that will concentrate those bait fish. So where we've got currents moving through and pushing bait up against a headland or a point, or against a piece of reef structure. Once we've found our quarry, if you like, so using the fish finder, we have that bait marked, we have those arches around the bait that indicate the predators are around. What we then need to do is position the kayak. And literally, what I'm doing is using my paddle to move the kayak up in the current, and I'll just kick it forward and hit free spool on the reel, send the jig on its way, and just dig in a couple of more paddle strokes so that I stay directly over top of my lure before picking the jig up and beginning the process of retrieving that lure. Something that's key when thinking about jigging from a kayak is that we're often targeting big fish. This means we need to think about which side of the kayak that we're going to fish out of. And here it's not about presenting the lure, it's about the end game. It's about what happens when you've hooked that big fish and played it to the side of the kayak. So for me, this means I'm going to fish off the right-hand side of the kayak. So I'll have the jig rod diagonally across. That means I've got good technique in our sort of compressed confines of the kayak. But even more importantly, once that fish is here at the side of the kayak, I'm able to lift my rod and reach out, nicely balanced, to grab the jig and control that fish. So literally grab the jig, haul that head up. Once the head's up, I can drop the rod or I can pop it in the rod holder, grab a hold of that bottom jaw and bring that 30 or 40 kilos, hopefully, of fish into the cockpit. That's where I can take the photos, get the lure out before releasing it back over the other side of the boat. As a fishing tool, kayaks allow us to access fishing way and above what you're able to get from a boat. You know, the biggest and most obvious is the stealth factor. We can sneak right up to schools of fish on the water and really target those fish with lures, baits, live baits, whatever it takes to chase our quarry. Fishing from kayaks is a sport that's grown phenomenally over the last few years. Part of the reason for it is just how effective they are. Part of the reason is their cost and economy, and let's face it, they're just simply fun. We can launch the kayaks anywhere we like. If you can walk to the water, then you can get that vessel afloat and away. So no boat ramps required, no hard sand beaches required. So again, that makes that accessing remote locations and the like very, very much easier. We're only talking, for the most part, 30 kilos that you're lifting onto your roof rack. So of course, then you're not dealing with trailers and extra gear that needs to be maintained and looked after. So something else that we can do from kayaks is mothershipping. Literally, this is throwing the kayaks on deck on a bigger boat, and we can enhance that go everywhere aspect of taking these kayaks further than anyone is prepared to paddle. So we're talking offshore islands, we're talking simply going so far from coast you can't actually see land. For us as kayakers, we can then launch and sneak right in close. And literally, some of the fishing that we do, we put the kayak into the surge zone on the rocks and fish outwards. The surge zone is that area of water where land-based guys obviously can't cast out to and keep their baits in position. And of course, the boaties are not wanting to sort of put their craft at risk, if you like, get too close to those rocks. And the kayak as a platform is incredibly stable sitting on the water. So we'll lift and rise and drop back down as the water surges around the rocks. And we are right there where the fish are. So of course we can present soft baits, cast lures, cast natural baits in a way that neither the boaties nor the land-based anglers can access. Part of what makes kayak fishing so cool is working with lures. It's really a match made in heaven, a hand-in-glove type scenario. What we do is we use the stealth of kayaks, the small footprint that they have on the water, to put us exactly where we need to be to present lures for best effect. Be it jigging, be it casting, soft baiting, whatever it might be, kayaks give us that maneuverability and that ability to precisely locate ourselves and then maximize the performance of the lure in the water. And that's what makes them so successful for targeting fish.
Woo! Yeah! What we came here to do.
A very popular way of adding to your kayak is the use of fish finders. And let's face it, as the technologies become more affordable, they've really become an essential fishing tool at all levels. From a kayak, we can actually target individual fish. We can literally pick out the big fish, the big predators that are hunting around a school, and use the maneuverability of the kayak to place ourselves exactly where we need to be to get that bait or lure to work with most effect. You can get into kayak fishing as a sport for anything between, say, $1,000 or $8,000. The other thing is of course, they cost nothing to run. A hamburger or a Weet-Bix for breakfast really is not much at all. And you don't have that $200 fuel bill to simply put you on the water. And of course, you don't have all of the maintenance costs either. Simply hose it down when you finish the trip. Bit of detergent if you need it because you've brought a few fish with you, but that's it. The fact that the kayaks allow us to just quietly move through the the wildness and the wilderness is such an appealing thing. And of course, it's a great way of getting exercise, fresh air, and just having a huge amount of fun while you're out there on the water.
Σ' άρεσε το βιντεάκι? Αν σου άρεσε, πάτα αυτό το κουπάκι που λέει εγγραφή για να εγγραφείς στο κανάλι μας και να δεις πολλά ωραία βίντεο. Επίσης, σου προτείνουμε να δεις αυτά τα δύο. Είναι πάρα πολύ καλά βιντεάκια. Ευχαριστώ, να είσαι καλά.